All right. Ebusuafo, the Mamina Makwaba, Eba Ghana Politics Avenue. Hana Ope, all the trending political stories in Ghana on Sabekan. Na ebusuane story di brewe da musuku oyeke Furata ho sensem ya na egusu ye benye bia ye ne mo che de pi tofom kra panye ne betofom afa na asem kra ne beche mo kayem ne bia atwam be ka chem se Kinu Furata ni case no attorney general ko news for say omo hwehwe sika bia walutu ho sensem bim na we na ho mboboye asase ba bonten se omalutu sika bi eja gugu no offshore account bim na eno na FBI fo ni gi akiri eno tuna za tunu gi na ka se ni rihwe mu a oya ba Kinu Furata offshore dealings no onen foreign investigators bi na ba wanfa sa foreign investigators ni gi antudwa ena come ya ko ba se FBI fo no mu ye sa investigations no enti Kinu Furata lutuske bi anaso diske bi akosie ba bia obi ani makiri na that's any friend offshore na ze wo je free Ghana akugu oman foforo so a obi ani akiri so ene na nhwemu ko baba na manfo de so adesa hu chirechiri mu offshore kwan ye fa so wies kanya de ade mu mi ko tie video ni bi ba de odi obi an ye de musa be chebi.
Why should that come to you as a surprise that FBI may be involved for a person that the Attorney General has told us that has been under investigation by the Office of the Attorney General, and the Attorney General has had interactions with U.S., Department of Justice officials? There are offshore dealings that are also under his microscope. And then before the Attorney General came into office, we had the OSP, which was also doing its investigations, which this minister was involved, not only this minister, with his aide, who is also, Ghanaian and U.S. citizen, who we are also looking to return. And they have filed an extradition process for them to be brought back to the country. In fact, a red alert or notice was issued, which I think is the one that prevented Kinu Furata from traveling around the place, even though he had valid visas for other countries, including the UK. Right. So why are you surprised?
Because, the offshore element is something that came as a surprise to us. Not entirely, because obviously, if you are, and I'm not saying Ken is guilty because I'm not a court of competent jurisdiction. I'm not a juror on any matter, but if you have the kind of financial nous that he has, and you are minded to hide money, then of course you will do it offshore. So from that point of view, it's not entirely surprising that they were looking offshore as well, if they believed that he may or may not have committed certain offenses.
Okay.
But to hear that this is actually something that's being investigated, that international investigators are involved, and I mean, that takes it to a whole different level. Right. And that is where the surprise comes from.
Doc, and actually, there is only one extradition process against her. There was not a new one.
Yes. So, if the Attorney General said, look, I have continued with this extradition case and would ensure that that happens. If you have contrary view to that, come out and say that this is what it is.
He's suggesting to you,
yes,
if that there was such interaction.
When did the extradition start?
Then the ambassador would have known. No, my point
is that when did why would the ambassador know?
Somebody had to whisper to him.
Yes, so
and then he had to go
and he's
coming
to give that stopgap. Imagine, this is a watertight case that the AG is running at his department, that even some key government officials are not aware of because it's an independent case and watertight because of the interest around it. So they don't give out information easily. Okay. So if the ambassador gets this information and decides that, look, in my capacity as ambassador, this is the information I have. I'm not representing the state. I'm not representing the AG's office. I'm only serving as a stopgap in terms of communication between, the Ghanaian public and what's being put out there. So we cannot hint that because the ambassador did not get, he should have been the primary recipient of the information. That premise
you spoke about the Bureau. Yes. And said they had done and
I'm pinning it on the Bureau. Yes, so pin it on them.
Thank you. Susan, listening to the lawyers talk about the law and all of that, and listening to Prof. Khalid also, what do you say now?
When you said that you were reading this, I was like, but I thought the MPP, you know, in your introduction, you said the MPP said that what is the government doing about what do you call it?
They've actually consistently blamed them for inaction.
Yes, and that they shouldn't talk about without Sedina.
Right.
And now you come back to tell us that, well, the process that you started, nothing was done. It was just a matter of course, and it was due. So you had started the pregnancy, and now it was just going on its way, and it's now, you know, giving birth to you. So I was like, okay, so which is which? And it is some of these, for want of a better word, mendacity or duplicity of politicians that people get wary of. You understand? And we are like, oh, how do they actually believe us to, or think that we will believe them when they say anything? Because you say something one time and then you say another thing which is in contradiction to each other. If it was a matter of course, then fine. It had reached there and it was due and it happened.
I think it is sincerity that and credibility that we need from the politicians, because extraditions normally take a long time.
Exactly.
So whilst the extradition of Tamaklo was ongoing, what the NPP's leaders should have told their base would be that don't point fingers at the Mahama administration because it will take a while.
Apart from it taking a while,
they rather, some of them were leading it and saying you have done nothing.
A while, it's not static. Things evolve.
And then I was also wondering, just administratively, who sends a letter and just sits back and waits for something to happen? Really, I mean, I work in an institution. If you send a letter or an email to somebody and sometimes don't do the active follow-up, it can take 10 years. But if you do an active follow-up, it may be a long process, but it will probably take 2 years.
But it's a fair demand that if there's any suggestion that it is this Attorney General or this administration that has pushed the July extradition of Sedina for us to get this result, then they should show evidence of it. That's a fair demand, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. It's a fair demand. I mean, and the government should respond to it, that if they have, I mean, after all, it should be documented. It's not going to be a verbal thing. It's something that should be documented, and they should be able to show some documentation to say that, look, we just didn't leave it like that. We have the documentation to prove that we have done follow-ups, and so a process that probably would have taken 6 months.
But is it possible done, that if the Attorney General says he has been in constant interaction with his counterparts in the US, is it possible that whilst they talk about Ofori Atta, he will say, we have an extradition before you, please look at it for us for Sedina?
It's very
possible. So there will not be evidence to show.
No, it's very possible, but I belong to a research facility. If it's not written, it's not done. So if he said it and it wasn't written and there was no documentation to follow up, then it wasn't done.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Unless his counterparts in the US can corroborate.
Well, I mean,
if he says so. Right.
It wasn't documented. You can have a conversation with somebody. To cement that conversation, you say, I will write you an email. I'll shoot you a line or two so that you say, oh, as previously discussed, can we...
Very
so that
good professional practice, yeah.
There's always documentary proof of something. Right. Every time, there should be documentary proof of something. Not just for... so that people can have an argument on it, but for history. You understand? To say that we had this conversation and we documented the conversation to say this and this had happened. And I think that is the way we should go with things. So from my mind, I think that maybe now the MPP, they should come up with a stand. They started the process, happy stance. It has happened in this thing. But it is also very symptomatic of our politics. People wanting to take credit for things. And I think that it brings our politics to, I did this, you did this, I did this. We are supposed to be there for the good of the people of Ghana. It doesn't matter whose action it is. If the action is done for the betterment and the growth of the people of Ghana, we shouldn't care who takes credit for it. There's too much of that in our politics, and that is what leads to, I'm building a hospital, I come next and I want to build my own hospital and I don't want to continue.
Right.
It is,
and it's our money that is getting wasted.
Exactly.
All the time.
So they say that the best work is done when people don't care who gets the credit for it, as long as the good that was behind that action is done.
Said.
And I think that we should move away from that kind of, yes, praise should be given when praise is due, to encourage people, but that should not be the basis in which our politicians should operate. I think that we want to move away from that.
Thank you very much.
Thing.
A very important issue, and I'm coming to Vicky Bright now. And in the course of this week, one of those issues have come out public about the Ghana Publishing Company, for example, where the current leadership, after about barely 1 year, is seeking to take praise for everything, credit for everything that has happened there. And then the leader of that place, David Asante Boateng, has also come out to say, you are wrong. And some of us have had to go to his defense on that regard, because I am a user of the Assembly Press, for example, because I need laws, I do things, there are notaries, other stuff there, like change of names and other things. And for a long time, the place was abandoned. The place was deserted. You didn't like to go there, even the bookshop. You go there and you are in a hurry to leave. But when David Asante Boateng took over, he transformed that place sincerely. 2019, I did something stake to focus on David Asante Boateng, to praise him for justifying the appointment of youth, because he had transformed the place dramatically, miraculously. And only today somebody comes and says he did nothing. This is a thing that we should stop. What you have heard, across the table and on Zoom, what do you have to say about these extradition matters?
Look, extradition is a complex process and it's a long process. Typically, it will take between 1 and 3 years, and that's when it's going smoothly. So it's no surprise that it's taking that long. But at the same time, as everyone's been saying, it doesn't kind of go along by itself. Someone has to push it along. And the country that made the request has to remain interested in the request and follow it up, etc., etc. So MPP, yes, they started the process. NDC clearly took over at some point and pushed it through, because I don't think the timing of Ken's extradition and Sedna's extradition, Ken's detention, I should say, and Sedna's...
The arrest was actually the same day for both of them.
Exactly. So it was coordinated. So I don't think that was just a coincidence, So we have to give credit to this administration as well for following it through, because after all, MPP had been going on and on about you're not doing anything, you've just left it because it's one of your own, etc., etc. And so they've done it. Actually, they arrested both the MPP person and the NDC person.
Is it possible that the Ghanaian authorities, seeing that extradition takes a long time, like you said, 2 to 3 years, decided to snitch on its own citizens who were there and were wanted? And so ICE rather went for one, the marshals went for the other, instead of following the extradition process.
It's funny you say that, because, in the UK, I know that the nationality, the people who snitch on each other the most are the Ghanaians. The Nigerians don't do that to each other. But the Ghanaian will call the Home Office and say, Kofi, is in wherever, East London, wherever, go and this is his address, blah, blah, blah. Then they'll quietly sit there. He doesn't have papers, So it's possible. We do that to each other. And this whole thing about, people wanting to take credit, sometimes to the detriment of the actual national discourse or development, it's a serious problem that we have in this country. I don't think that what David Asante Boateng has done should be discounted, because you're right. He did. I didn't like going to the Assembly Press. In fact, I would almost never go there. I will send a clerk to go, you know, and what he's done or what he did back then is something to be commended.
Right.
And what the new person has done in the first year is also something to be commended, but don't do it without giving credit to what started before. It just doesn't help us in any way at all as a nation.
Right.
So I think we need to give credit where credit is
give
due.
a clap, because I think maybe my stance on praising the Attorney General's office is probably what is bringing all this, right? So to give clarity to it is that I wouldn't have done so if they were not attacked from the outset, because they were attacked for doing nothing. So if something
I
happens,
hadn't quite landed.
oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you had. No, she's a presidential lawyer, so she takes her time. So that was a very long pause. I apologize.
So no. So I was, no, I mean I had almost finished.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that. So this extradition matter, I think that this government clearly took a step in accelerating Sedina's extradition in her case.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to take a break from here, but Chuayabwa, Alfred, any concluding comments you want to make, because your commentary has stayed on Sedina. I haven't heard you say anything about Ofori Atta. There's a request by people like Hobson Addo that the MPP as a group should have been urging Ofori Atta to voluntarily do a patriotic duty, a civic duty, by handing himself in. Yes, Alfred. Yes, go ahead. You can be heard now.
No, I've not had any question. Who are you? What is the issue?
My question was that there's been a call by some of your party people even that you would have done Ofori Atta a lot of good if you had urged on him to act patriotic or be civic-minded and to hand himself in rather than now face the embarrassment internationally that he's going through. You didn't hear that? Okay. Bobby, what do you have to say about that in a minute?
I think that I caught on to government being a continuous process. Whatever has started by previous government, once it is in a good light, deserves continuation. And like a lawyer that also used to purchase statutes and things from the Ghana publishing, I think we all saw the good work that was done by Mr. Asante. I think that's his name. Never met him, but my office is just...
He brought the Ghana Publishing Company to its current glory, period.
Yes. And I would, yes, I agree. And I would want to add that even at the point, they were even marketing their services for publication for private authors.
Right.
Which hitherto was not done. During his term, they were marketing that if you're a private author. So the idea was that they were only publishing government laws. And then during his time, they even went ahead to market. And I because I had authored some books, I had a quote from them in that. They
even started the premium services, the express services. And in 2019, when I was speaking and I was talking about even visiting the washrooms there, you have no idea what it used to be. And now you go into that washroom and you are happy. You get to the front desk and they are attending to you. That's what he started. And all the big machines, modern machines that were brought in there. And government, had made issued a fiat asking that people should take government jobs to them, and they began to execute. I spoke to the Electoral Commission at the time, and they said they had given them work for assembly elections. And the guys finished their job weeks, almost 2 weeks ahead of the private companies. Can you imagine a state institution that was doing that?
I think something, if this may be of any help, I know of a few CEOs too that were appointed by the former administration that have still kept their post because of the good work that they have done, even more than a year after a change of government. I think that Mr. Nanaben, I think he's GIF also Ghana infrastructure something. He's still at post. And I think that the Ghana airport is also at post. So there are a few of those examples that you can put in. But generally, at the end of the day... I
would have wished that the cybersecurity boss also kept his post. He took us from 27 or 32% of international ratings to 99+% and brought us at par with Singapore, with US in cybersecurity. Wow. So not everything was bad in the regime, like when people talk about it.
Security issues, even regardless of if it's the same government that stayed, when leadership change, they can still. So that's always a sensitive and touchy area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Alfred, I'll ask you a question. Did you hear it? Did you hear it?
Oh, Samson.
Alfred. Hello, Alfred.
Yeah, Samson, yes.
Did you hear my question?
No, please you can repeat it.
I'm saying that there are calls on you, that including from some of your members, Hobson Adoye and the rest, maybe former member, who are saying that you would have done Ken Ofori-Atta, well. You'd have done him good if all of you had, urged him to be patriotic and do a civic duty by handing himself in, rather than wait until what has now befallen him, suffering such an international embarrassment.
I mean, Mr. Ofori-Atta is an individual within the NPP. And he indicated to Ghanaians why he wanted to travel to the U.S. While in the U.S., things were commenced in Ghana, and he decided to also engage his lawyers. I do not have much information at this end. I have not been his lawyer I wouldn't be in a position to advise him. So I'd like to rest here for now, but I believe in due process.
You were not Godfrey Dami's lawyer when he had to go to the police CID and 100 or so of you lawyers from the MPP went there. You were not Wuntumi's lawyer or the other people, their lawyers, when they were held by Iyoko and the NPP massed up there, spending nights over the vigil. So what do you mean by it's an individual and you can't advise them when you can protest over others?
There are two things. Legal issues and political issues. When it comes to legal issues, now that I'm not in public office, I've been a private legal practitioner. I offer opinion when I'm duly engaged and properly remunerated. And so in terms of my legal opinion, I'm able to offer it now because he has his own lawyers. In terms of the political process, the party went to the CID or other places to defend or solidarize with those who are arrested. That's not the case in Ken's matter now. Ken has not been arrested in Ghana. He's not been placed in custody. Nobody has masked up somebody to say, don't go and extradite him. What I believe is about due process. If at the end of everything in the U.S., it is ordered that Ken should be brought to Ghana, why not?
Okay.
That is due process.
I just had to ask a question, but I know you are a nice guy, Alfred. Thank you very much for your time.
I just wanted
My pleasure.
to say this, when we're speaking that maybe Ghanaian politicians don't believe that, is it the quote or the saying that I have seen far because I have stood on the shoulders of giants. We never want to say that we have seen far because we've stood on people who have been great. But great people say these things, that it is not because of them alone, but it's because they have been able to rely on the vision and the wisdom of other people, and that is why they have gone far. Too many times, of course, but our politicians these days are, hey, that is why they refuse to admit that. Because I think part of being great is being able to admit that you were not the only person in that success, and that people had aided you and had been the people who had helped you to get success. I think we must get to that point where we are able to acknowledge that we didn't just pull ourselves by our own bootstraps and that help was given somewhere. I think, maybe then we'll stop this kind of...
Was I seeing you putting your hand up?
No, I just wanted to say we're getting there with the reset agenda that we've had.
Okay.
As you can see in the outlook of the president and vice president, in how things are being
Your
done.
party people don't like people who act
Right?
nice, like you're trying to do.
I know that I have a groundswell of support for my party's base, especially the grassroots, in how we do this.
I was surprised to discover that you were in the lecture room in Sheffield for 11 good years
11
teaching.
good years. Most people don't know that.
Right.
So, I mean, it's quite interesting, Samson. So you have some people even doubting my credentials because of that.
Forget about them. Even an Akuffo's legal credentials were doubted
so
in this republic.
they have no idea and they will
right.
ask.
So when we return, how do you define gender identity? This is how it was defined in the teacher's manual for the physical education teaching. It says gender identity refers to a person's deeply felt internal experience of gender.
I Ghana politics avenue. All the trending political stories in Ghana. Ayana on Sabekan. And then they can about Chinese. You better subscribe to channel. Subscribe to your dominant or notification bell on Addo on Sabos. Every video, any video of Bia, Yabia on Sabit to me. Akebi. Now this Uria. Subscribe to your video Ushi. And as I say, that we know what pass comments. Ama our comments as soon as you go dream for Nyoma air course working for other kids. Need not to a dream near who dear ye Ama Ghana politics and Ghana monosters a tumpona Akoyi. A Damula must say, my bread, the Motsi and my prayer. I Ghana police avenue, Akroma.